welcome to this edition of BEP Talks, where it's all about beliefs, experiences, and passions shared with you by people from all around the world, from different industries and professions, different stages of their career path, what have you, but all here to share their wisdom, education, inspire you, motivate you, educate you, maybe even just to entertain you, but to share a deep part of themselves with you. And that is the beauty of BEP Talks, where we talk about beliefs, experiences, and passions. Today, certainly, well, we never have an exception. Every guest is so wonderful. Today's guest, certainly no exception. Our very special guest today is a therapeutic transformational coach, which we're going to get deep into what all of that means, who works with neurodivergent professionals. Need to know more about that word. Mostly with women, moms, who I guess have the appearance of being very successful on the outside and probably are successful, but something's missing on the inside. And Quinn works with them to bring them back into that good balance. And here to talk to us about exactly how she does that is today's guest. Please welcome Quinn Cashion.
Hello.
Hi, Quinn. How are you? We had a little thunder there, little thunder and lightning. How are you today, my
I'm
friend?
doing so well. Thank you for the invitation. I'm looking forward to our conversation.
So am I, because one of the things I love so many things about BEP Talks, mostly meeting wonderful people like yourself. And I do learn every single conversation I have, I learn. And you're going to start teaching me now. What is a neurodivergent woman?
Well, our brains are fascinating. And I think more recently, in brain studies, they're noticing different brain types. And neurodivergent is a type of brain that functions a certain way that's different from what they call neurotypical brains. So neurodivergence kind of focuses in on certain areas. It's almost like all their brain power goes into what they're good at. They have this genius gifts, and there's definitely a continuum of neurodivergence, but the people that I work with are at one end of the spectrum that are, they function super well in the workplace. They are great to have around. I mean, they're amazing leaders. They just get so much done so quickly. But sometimes they struggle with relationships, the emotional state. A lot of times they go into high anxiety or depression. They have to do some masking, which I find we all do at some level, right? We're all masking, but they have a heightened awareness of that. Their sensory system, so anything from sight, smell, taste, touch, hear, can be very heightened, and everyone's different as to what that would be for them. For some people, they can't stand bright light. Others, it's sound. They can't be in a place that has that's very noisy. So some clients that I work with that are in the sort of career side of things, they have to wear a headset just so that the noise is calmer for them.
Oh, this is the term neurodivergent. Has that been around forever? Is it newer in today's sciences?
It's autism is kind of what they talk about. So neurodivergent can be ADHD, autism. Those are the ones that are sort of the common ones that are recognized. And so it's really about how do you work with the brain you've been given, and I think that goes across all of us. And how do we function in our day-to-day, in our careers, in our relationships, in our health and our well-being? And a lot of times we can get really off track from that. And so that's the work that I do, is I really get people to tap back into that inner resource that they forget about, because we're so focused on the outside world of performing, of achieving, of getting things done, and that the inner side is kind of in turmoil
Yeah, it's
sometimes.
kind of a competitive world out there, 9 to 5, isn't it? So you said autism, which the word that came to my mind right away was the spectrum.
Yes,
Is neurodivergency, if that's the right word, is it part of the spectrum?
it is. Yes.
It is. So is there a way to diagnose it? Or is it just behavioral? Is it just outward behavioral that it becomes like kind of a, oh, how many boxes you check that fit in that category that you now are believed to be neurodivergent? Or is there really a scientific way to diagnose it?
There are some assessments, and I've heard of people getting assessments in their 60s. They're just noticing this pattern and they finally go and get some testing done, and it kind of validates what they already know. And I think any diagnoses when it comes to mental health is it just kind of validates kind of where you're at in that moment, but it's not who you are. And that's the important uh, thing that I want to share. It doesn't matter what is going on and what diagnoses you get, it's not who you are. And that's the important piece, because
Right.
we can get so gripped and caught up in a diagnosis and
Labels.
yeah.
Labels. Yeah. Putting kids even, I remember years ago, it's not all that long ago. I mean, it's recent history. Where, what was the drug, Ritalin, that so many kids were given because of behavioral observations, I'm being kind, that teachers believe they had kids who were, fiddling around, and maybe they were just bored, maybe they were divergent,
Mm.
and, were given, it was Ritalin, right? Am I correct in remembering that that's the drug that these children were given, and that it kind of calmed them down so the teacher didn't have to deal with them? But then the child, the student, at tender ages, very sad, they knew that others didn't expect a lot of them, so they stopped expecting a lot of themselves. So back to neurodivergence, when you say that people can be diagnosed, is it something that is it progressive? Is it something that manifests itself experientially, or are you born with it, with that type of a brain?
Yeah, most of the time, well, it depends on who you're researching, because some people believe that is we're born with it. Certain people are born with it. Other people that are currently is discussing how vaccines can trigger that. And
Oh,
so at,
that's yeah.
so at the end of the day, it's really about what kind of brain I have to work with. If I'm noticing, if my parents are noticing, if I'm a younger person, that I'm not making friends easily, or, they're being bullied in the playground more often, if they're more focused on certain activities versus others, it's really about the adults that surround them that really have to support their gifts. I mean, I remember watching America's Got Talent. I love that show. And this fellow, I can't remember his name offhand right at the moment, but he couldn't speak. He could barely speak to the judges. His mom came out with him on stage and spoke to the judges for him, but he came to sing and play piano, and he was phenomenal.
Oh, I know who you're talking about. He was, if we're thinking it, he was, I'm going to say, profoundly autistic,
Yes,
and yet had this talent, this God-given gift.
yes.
Do you find, is that a pattern that,
No, no,
no,
everyone's different. And that's where I don't want to get too caught up on sort of that. It's kind of looking at how we all operate. We all have an operating system within us. And it's like,
okay,
how do we take that operating system and optimize it?
well,
So,
yeah,
yeah, so some of my clients that are having those challenges in the classroom, like you were talking about, they couldn't sit still in the classroom. I had one class because I developed a resilience manual for elementary schools. And so I was going in and teaching kids in the classroom. And at the time, the focus of the work was helping kids not get caught up in eating disorders, because that was sort of the mandate of this project. But I knew going into a classroom that you would have different types of brains, you would have anxiety and depression and bullying and all kinds of other issues going on. So going underneath all of that and strengthening the core of who we are as humans will help these symptoms go away or get less.
how wonderful to know that that opportunity exists, that something can be done. And like anything else, I guess we say early diagnosis, if that's the right term to say, but take whatever information you have and use it the most powerful way that you can to become the best, or to help, in your case, someone else to become the best that they can. Do you work mostly with, well, no, you don't work mostly with children, I'm going to guess, because it says that you work with very successful women professionals and moms.
Yes.
So,
Well, this project got me into the school system, and so I was actually developing a curriculum to work with educators. But what happened is, like, I wanted to create the curriculum, but I also wanted to see how it worked in the classroom. So I went in
yeah,
and did a lot of work with kids, which I really enjoyed, because the curriculum, and that's where the educational system for me gets really stuck, is because they have the curriculum on social emotional learning of all of these things, and yet if the teacher is not able to create an environment through their own state of mind where children can thrive, then there's a real disconnect. So, I remember one province was spending a lot of money on well-being in the classroom. And so they were coming up with strategies, techniques, teachers standing at the door and greeting their kids in the morning. Well, if a teacher's stressed out, burnt out, had a bad morning already, that hello is not going to land very well.
it wouldn't make
So,
so much sense. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, so recognizing how state of mind is fluid, it's up and down all the time.
sure.
And so if we can recognize that, even in the children that are in our classroom, then it makes it a little easier to create an environment that's safe to sort of move through the upset instead of punishing someone for what they.
Yes, yes. I mean, you didn't understand what it was as the teacher or the supervisor. Listen, anything that anybody can do in for the early stages, during the early stages of life in elementary school, as we would call it here in the United States, grammar school, the lower grades, that can put somebody on a better path. And I don't mean better that they become a better person, but a better path for them, to your point, based on what it is that they are dealing with, whatever the brain is. That's only fair. Listen, it's never been easy to be a kid. It's never been easy to be, not easy to be a teacher either, but never been easy to be a child. And especially these days, there's just so much. There's just so much energy, and it's not always good. There's so much influence that comes to them, and how they deal with it. And then how, when each child goes home, and how the adults, the older people, we'll call them adults, deal with those same issues, and what that kid brings back and has influence on other children's. It's it's not easy. It's not easy.
Well, and it can't be easy, and
It
that's the
can be.
thing.
Oh, wonderful. Good news.
Yes, because if we don't understand the operating system, our brain, our mind, if we don't understand it well enough, it takes us for a ride. We get impacted by the outside world all the time. And so I remember when my children were young and said, well, Sally wasn't very nice to me. And it's like, instead of making Sally wrong, or if she bullied, if it was the language that they used, it's like, I wonder what's up with Sally. I wonder what's going on. I hope
Why?
she's
What's the
okay.
trigger? Yeah. Yeah.
Now if that pattern happened for a couple of times, then yeah, I have to look into it further. But it's really about, how can we just recognize some people have low moods and some people act from their low moods. And where we want to get to is, I can have a low mood, but I don't have to act on it.
On everybody else, that, especially for a teacher, that's really hard, and they have to deal with so many different personalities. You use the word bully, and I don't like bullies. Um, is there a pattern from the child who starts bullying early on,
Mhm.
that what I've observed, never was bullied, never allowed people to bully other people in my presence. I was kind of that person who shut it down, but started to realize trends. I really started to see that it was the insecurity of some, and I would say even to adults, if making someone else feels To make someone else feel inferior is what makes you feel better about yourself. That's a strange way to comport yourself.
Well, we can look at this a lot of different ways. So, the state of insecurity, when I drop in my mood, I go into my insecurity. So, everybody's different as to what they do in their insecurity. For some people, they'll bully. Some people will become a victim. Some people will create violence. We all do some, we yell or get angry at other people. So, everybody does their thing, what they've learned over the years when they're in the low state. So the fact that a bully and a victim can be in that low state of thinking, because like you said, it's like, well, I was never bullied, but maybe you were, but you stood your ground. Like you knew how to take care of yourself, right? So the victim, you want them to get into a higher state where they're able to deal with that energy that's coming at them that's negative.
Yeah.
And so what I found with working with young people is those that were bullies were phenomenal leaders. They had a skill within them to know how to lead. They just didn't know how to use it properly. So it's an energy, everything's energy in my mind. So emotions, I view emotions, energy. So when a bully, they know how to get people on their side. They know how to, they know how to do things, but they don't know how to use it properly because they haven't been trained, or they have family members or people in their home environment that's demonstrated, well, the way to get your own way is to do it this way.
Right. Repeat behavior. Right. Right. Wow. Gosh, there's so much to know. So you're talking a lot about children, and it must be so satisfying to work with children and know that you can impact their lives, even one life, in a very positive way, to give them more security, more confidence, a better direction, to be understood better by other people. That has to be such a satisfying experience for you. Working with successful female entrepreneurs, is there a contradiction in that? In that it's your okay, female will say maybe that's part of it. I don't know. Maybe it's more common among females than males. You're a successful entrepreneur. You have all the outward signs of it, and yet you don't feel good about yourself when you're not on the job. You're not in touch with really what you're supposed to be doing and who you really are. How does that kind of sounds like a phenomenon?
Well, it has been. Yeah, I think we all wear our masks. Talking about masking earlier, we all have a mask. We have an image, we have a brand that we're putting out into the world, and it's like how in alignment am I with that brand? And for me, it's really about the calmer I am on the inside, it's easier to project that outwards. So being anxious or stressed or overwhelmed, those we think those are somewhat normal, but at the end of the day, if you're not enjoying the moment that you're in that conversation you're having with that one client or that one
Yeah.
person, it's like it's great you're getting the money and you're getting that success, but the feeling underneath that is, and it's coming back to the holistic approach to mental health in my
Yeah.
mind. It's really about my relationships healthy? Am I feeling at ease with myself instead of feeling discomfort and dis-ease? Am I enjoying the life that I'm creating for myself?
So well, it is suggesting to me then that there can be, um, I imagine this is true, two sides to everybody. None of us are perfect, but how do I say this? To feel, to be recognized by any definition of being an accomplished, successful person, we'll say a female entrepreneur, and yet to feel lacking yourself, that bit of contradiction. Is there something that causes that imbalance that seems somewhat natural because you can't be on all the time. You can't be playing that strong, successful female entrepreneur 24/7, 365. Is it somewhat of a defense mechanism that you lower your
Mm.
own mood, your own behavior, because you need to create that balance so that you can go back there on the 9 to 5 side and be that strong person?
Yeah, yeah, it gets exhausting after a while.
It would have to be. It would have
Yes,
to be.
yes. When we're not in alignment with who we really are, it gets exhausting over time. And so the body starts to knock on the door and going, I need your attention. I need your attention. So that's
Yes,
one way of it showing up. It's the dynamics in your home environment.
sure.
If you're always stressed and overwhelmed and you're coming home to your kids and their behavior's out of sorts, so it's more of a screaming match than, hey, what's going on? Can I give you a hug? Bringing in that love and that connection that is so critical when we're
Yeah.
raising our children. So yeah, that's a key part. And so with women, I really like working with moms as well because of the work I've done with children, and it doesn't matter what age your kids are at, it's about that relationship, it's about that connection, and how do I hold on to that connection in a loving, kind, clear way that allows them to become independent,
Yeah.
let them to thrive, but also maintain your own wellness because it's so
Yeah.
easy to
Yeah.
put it second.
Sure. What cost to yourself when you're serving everybody else and doing the job as the successful female entrepreneur? At what cost to yourself? And then you don't want to go home and take it out on your children.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of a chicken and an egg thing here.
Yeah.
I'm
Well, it,
seeing.
it can be. And it's not just entrepreneurs. I mean, you look at anyone, like you were saying earlier, teachers, like, whoa, the amount of work they have to put into a classroom and perform, and then they have to come home and take care of their own kids, and they have to do, tests, scores or whatever. Yeah. So I think anyone who has a life outside of the home as well, it's a lot of energy that is output. And
Yeah.
so how do we refill our cup? How do we maintain
Yes.
that? Or how do we maintain the cup full in our day? It's like, is it possible for us to keep our cup full during the day? I mean, I think it is possible. I've noticed some days when I can do that really well. It's like, all right. And other days it's like, oh man.
Well, you're human. You're human. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember there was a story years ago. I wish it just came to mind about a man coming home from work, a busy day, a stressful day, and before he would walk in his house, he would stop and hang his troubles, his complaints on the
Mm.
tree. So he didn't bring them into the house with him and take it out on his children and his wife and whatever, so that he can enjoy that part of his family life and be a good supportive husband and dad. And the vision of it, if you will, is that when he would be leaving the next day, he would want to take the problems off the tree and take them back to the office. But that when he passed the tree, he realized there was nothing there to take.
Mm.
That what you think, if you can just release it, let it go. And I might be oversimplifying, but that image came to mind, is that sometimes just let it
Yes,
go. Let it
actually,
go.
I speak in metaphors all the time because it's so important because we can't see the brain. We can't understand
Right.
how the mind works. It's so abstract. And so
Yeah.
be able to bring it into form so that we can understand a little bit more. That's a really good example of letting go of a thought.
Mm,
He just hung all those thoughts that he didn't need going into the house.
right.
And how beautiful is that? And
Yeah.
to come back out in the morning, it's like, oh, they're not there
Not
anymore.
there anymore.
So
How
yeah,
big could it
the
be?
wisdom would have.
Wisdom. Yeah. So when we talk about divergent personalities, is that, or divergent brains, is that, I want to say it the right way.
Yeah, and there's so many different definitions out there. And then I think for me and with the clients that I've worked with, they're just a beautiful soul and they just have a noisy head, lots of noise in the head. And I think we all have that to some degree, and some of them it's to a point where it's very more intense, I guess
Mm.
you could
Yeah.
say that
Is
way.
there a range in neurodivergency um, from, well, mild to really critical?
Well, as we shared about the man that was saying on America's Got Talent, he was definitely at one
Yes.
end, right? And so others that are at the other end are high functioning. You wouldn't know. You wouldn't know. They are very skilled. They figured things out. I think Elon Musk is an example that is
Oh,
somebody who's on the spectrum, highly functioning.
who's
But
the
does he
other
have
one?
things in his
Yeah,
life that
yeah.
he could be better with? Probably.
Zuckerberg also, Zuckerberg also on that spectrum. So maybe you start to think that those very active brains, it's that their brains are knocking because there's so much going on up there. They are so brilliant. It's so fascinating because, as you say, the human brain, we can't see it. We can only observe, I guess, the behaviors of people. And I don't want to say categorize them, but
Well, and that's the thing that I stay away from is labels
yeah,
because labels are for clothes. They're not for humans, right? And so, but if we're more aware of how I show up in certain situations, then I know where I need to do my work. If I notice that I'm in these kinds of environments and I shut down or I talk too much or, I'm feeling like I have to mask all the time, then it's like, okay, well, how can I do it differently? And so
yeah,
then we start figuring those things out. But if our inner compass is strong and we understand the core of who we are is strong, then we're able to manage our behaviors in any situation. I might have a low day one day and I don't talk much, but I'm okay with that because at the core, I know who I am and I'm all right with that. Versus getting worried and I'm anxious and I get overwhelmed and, then we go down that rabbit hole.
yeah.
And so then it's like, then we beat ourselves up and then we think we need some medications instead
Right.
of going, well, maybe I
Self-insecure, the
just
whole
need to
thing.
go for a walk. Maybe I just need to go and watch the sunset. Maybe I'll put on my favorite music.
Things like that. Yeah, those are nice diversions. And I don't mean to connect diversion to neurodiversity, neurodivergent rather. You bridge, I read in your bio that you bridge spirituality and psychology.
Mhm.
And I found that fascinating. I thought, wow, are those things opposing thought patterns, beliefs, whatever, spirituality and psychology? How do they come together?
Great question. Love that question. I'm actually just currently writing a book about that.
Oh,
Yeah, so we are spiritual beings having a human experience.
love it.
So the more we can understand that spiritual element of who we are, it's peaceful, it's
Mm.
loving, it's graceful, I'm okay with being in the unknown. We just create from this beautiful place. And so the feeling, it's always a feeling. We always know spiritually when we're in alignment with our higher self, our truer self, with God, whoever that is for you. When we're in alignment, it feels really nice.
Yeah,
It's
peace,
kind of
peace.
quiet, it's quiet on the inside.
When I'm thinking spirituality and psychology, is that the union, the balance, the coming together um, of the body and the soul in a sense, the body being the brain, the soul being the inner spirit, and that if and when we can be well aligned with that, we can have that peace. And
Yeah, so I look at spirituality as a power source. it's universal intelligence, it's God. We have that ability to tap into that source.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we know when we do. The wisdom comes, the gut feeling comes, the intuition is there. So we know when we tap into that in any given moment.
You know the result of tapping. I know for me, when I do tap into it, and there's times I go, I need to,
Yeah.
I'll pray out loud or something, ask for something. Um, it does kind of bring you back down into,
And
it's
then
not all about me. Yeah.
yeah, so that's where wisdom speaks to you. So that's wisdom. That at the core of our spiritual essence is wisdom. And so that's a really good example of tapping into that innate part of who you are.
Yeah.
Psychology, when we align psychology, when our thinking mind aligns with mind, or the inner essence, the compass, whatever you want to call it, it flows really well. So the personal thinking mind is not chattering. It's not going a mile a minute. I don't have 27 folders open on my, in my operating system. I just have one, and it's really lined, and I feel like I'm in a flow instead of, moving all over. I got to do this, I got to do that. So so that's the difference, that when we can connect these two, life flows a lot easier.
There's going to be so much harmony when, if and when you can connect them. What can somebody do something consciously to bring themselves into that state? Like if you observe you're nervous, you're like you say, moving from here to there, your attention deficits, what have you. Is there something that we can do to calm ourselves and to bring ourselves into focus, let's
Yeah,
say, and become mindful that there's a conflict here? What's
yeah,
going on here? What's going on here? What's going on here?
yeah.
Are kind of fighting each other?
Well, and that's where we want to get into alignment and not fighting. So if we're living life from the outside in, you made me angry, work is horrible, everything on the outside world is causing me to feel upset, to feel anxious, to feel angry. If you shift that paradigm around,
Right.
where same scenario, what's going on out there, but it's how I'm going to look at it that day. If my mood's low, yeah, I'm going to get angry about that, or upset about that, or overwhelmed. If I'm in a high state of mind, oh, yeah, I didn't see that coming.
Yeah.
Hey, I need 5 minutes here, or I need a day to sort of think about this, because I'm not quite sure how to handle this
But
right
isn't
now.
there, isn't there a balance or a relationship between cause and effect? Like you can have it trigger. There are certain people that can trigger. I know certain emotions in me that, you know, are truly triggered by that person, let's say. Um, I didn't bring it to them. They brought it out of me. And I don't want to look like, I don't let anybody make me a victim, but the saying, it's like 90% of life is 10% of what happens to you, and 90% of how you respond to what happens to you, like a cause and effect.
Yeah, so we can have a reaction or a response. So even though, let's say somebody's had a trauma from childhood and it's still in their nervous system. So let's just say it was somebody, their dad was always angry at them. And so anybody in their current world who used that tone of voice, they might get triggered, right?
Ju-
But the more grounded they are, the more that they understand the operating system behind what's coming at them. They'll start to see, oh, well, that, it's like a bee sting. I call them bee stings, and it's like, oh, yeah, I can feel that. But then I know how to let it go, because I don't let it bother me. Because it's just a word. Somebody
It's
just
just
said
a,
something. I don't need
yeah,
to let it
yeah.
bother me. I can respond to that. I could set a boundary to that if necessary. So there's lots of things that would occur to me in that moment. And again, that comes back to the spiritual side of it, because you're talking about your wisdom, going,
Right.
whoa, you know what? This is not a good time for me to talk to that person, or let's go for a walk and have that talk, because you felt more at ease doing that. So
Right.
you will find ways to support your well-being first. It's like
You
the,
were saying earlier, keep that cup full
yes.
so that you have more to continue to give positively to other people. What's the process by which people work with you? And we'll put the information below this of how people can be in touch with you. Just talk briefly about the process
Mhm.
of someone who goes to work with you, who wants to become a client. Is it that they feel something's missing, something's lacking? I want more, I need more, I deserve more. How does that begin?
Yeah, so working as a therapist, I get all types of clients coming
Yeah,
in. They're just feeling a disconnection in their relationships. It could be with their partner, it could be with their kids, it could be friendships that are out of sorts, especially for the younger children that I work with. So it really varies. Everybody's quite different when they
right,
come to me.
right.
But with my programs that I'm offering now, it's really about let's understand this operating system because you're successful, you're showing up to life really well, and you're not feeling at ease on the inside. So let's get you back to feeling at ease while you're still creating the life that you're creating for yourself.
Beautiful.
So the more we can
So,
feel that.
Quinn, is it about fixing something or is it about learning to identify something and understand how to deal with it?
Well, the way I explain it is that I help my clients come home to who they are.
Oh, that is so beautiful. That is such a
So,
beautiful way to say it.
well, thanks. Yes, because they already know their answers. But it's kind of like being in the forest, it's like there's a path this way and that way. And it's like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do. I did the fitness stuff. I've taken all these courses. And I'm still feeling full of anxiety. And so that's where I help them with that. I get them really grounded enough so that they know which path to choose.
Well, I just have to say, it's such incredible wisdom that you're sharing, and I hope you enjoy so much satisfaction, personally and professionally, knowing how you're helping people. And I say it all the time, you change the life of one person, you do change the world because there's that trickle down effect, that ripple effect, if you want to call it that. Um, what a wonderful way to spend your day.
I get a lot of joy out of it. As you were speaking, one client came to mind that she was in one of my courses that I was doing for survivors of violence and abuse and helping them get back into the workforce. And she came in to the program with a 3-month-old baby and just in the midst of fleeing this relationship. And she really heard what I was saying about coming home to herself, like to really experience that, regardless of what's happening in your life right now. Just come
Yeah.
home to here. And she really got it. And, I think how many years, it was quite a few years ago, 45 years ago, and she's flourishing. She is
Oh,
making a huge difference in her community. Her child is now in kindergarten and flourishing. Like it's just lovely to watch
oh,
because she got to understand how her operating system works enough so that she can continue to be successful in her life and also to enjoy it.
and to enjoy it and raise another good human being. That's wonderful.
Yeah,
That's wonderful.
she keeps
Yeah.
saying she wants her daughter to come visit me.
So on that note, I will say, is it ever too soon to start this kind of self work or ever too late? Is
Uh,
change always possible?
well, that's the only constant in this world is
Is
change.
change, yeah, true, true.
Yes. However, I do feel for parents, those that are listening that do have younger children, start it now. Start the language now in your home. Recognize how to manage the moods that are in your environment and deal with it with ease and grace instead of it being like this constant, because the home needs to be that safe place. so that they can come, for all of you to come home to that.
Shouldn't there be a course before you bring another human being into this world to know how to do it from the best direction and to follow the best path? There should be books and there should be courses, I think, based on what you were saying, for teachers to know how, when they're dealing with many, many children, all who are unique, different, come from different backgrounds, or dealing with different home circumstances, including the teacher's home circumstance. Um, to, there are so many courses that we should be teaching. Teach nutrition in medical school, teach finance in high school. There are so many
Yes.
courses about life itself
Yeah.
that are not taught.
Yeah.
We often learn the hard way.
Completely agree. And so this is where parents need to step up now because our school systems are not doing a great job at that. And you're lucky when your child gets into a classroom where it's a great teacher. I remember in my daughter, she was watching a movie on bullying one year when she was in grade 2, and she got really quiet after the movie. She goes, "Mom, I want to start a girls' club in my class." And then all all the grade 2s, all the schools. So I was like, okay. So we went in and talked to
Wonderful.
the teacher about it, because the way she saw her students was they were all leaders. And so here's my daughter coming in as a leader saying, I want to create this. And she was all for it. And so we
Great.
created a little program.
She's a
But the
smart
other
teacher.
teachers in
Yeah.
the other grade 2 classes, oh, no, no, can't do that because it was just for girls. So so it's being really open to learning as an adult just as much as a child, because if I didn't pay attention to my daughter and what she was thinking,
Right.
and to take her lead and follow through with it to see what was possible. And so yeah, so that there's a skill that develops at such a young age is leadership, and she was able to tap into that.
Beautiful. Beautiful. What does she do now?
Huh, she's in cosmetics.
Well, okay, that's okay. That's a huge industry. Wonderful. It makes us all feel better about ourselves, look better about ourselves.
She's very creative, and both my daughters, as I think I was mentioning earlier to you, I started my career in fashion, got into the beauty industry, and now my two daughters are both in those industries. I
Well, it's in their blood,
guess so, yeah.
it's in their DNA, and how you've moved, and hopefully they're both so happy with what they're doing. And, I've been in both of those industries as well. And what I've learned about it, and I believe in retrospect, I understood it in the moment and really came to understand it or validate my thoughts and beliefs later on, is that in dealing with in the cosmetics industry, in the spa industry, and we had a very steady clientele of people who came in, and you thought they were coming in for an eyeshadow, a good cleanser, a good facial. There was so much more for them to get. It became a community because there were standing appointments. The same people every Tuesday at 1 o'clock were there. Tuesday at 1 o'clock. They had like their own little network. They had their own little support group.
Nice.
And I would say to our staff, my sister and I were partners. I would say, don't think that it's only about, but don't underestimate the value that you are laying your hand on somebody. You are coming in physical contact with someone, and that moment, that tender touch might be the only tender touch they're going to get that day, the
Yes.
only kindness that they're going to receive. That you think they're coming in for, lipstick, hair, a pretty new outfit, but there's so much more woman to woman through those channels that connects us. There is so much, I think. I'll use the word therapy, and I don't mean it to be like the way you are a therapist, but there's so much that comes through those experiences.
Well,
It's very personal. It's very, very
well,
personal.
and that's an interesting point because it's connection. We need human connection right from the beginning of our lives. We've needed human connection, and but the difference is someone doing the hand massage And is she fully present? Is she fully present and giving that full energy to that client? Or is their mind wandering somewhere else about, what am I going to do after work? Or I need to go to the gym, or, and that makes a huge impact
Mm.
in that experience for that particular client.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the conversations that we had, I mean, we knew everything about everybody. And I used to say, oh my God, I remember saying to my dad, this goes back decades, saying to my dad, we're really missing, we had a very successful business, but I said, I think we're missing something before reality shows. I said, this is a TV show happening that we should be taping
Mhm.
these conversations because um, there would be almost like one continuing conversation throughout the whole day. The people that came in at 9 o'clock would do their thing and they knew each other, and then a couple of them left, and the next 10 o'clock people came in. But the same conversation kind of continued through the
Oh,
day.
that's so great.
And you got, and I had an educated clientele, many of them in education, many of them in guidance. And there was depth to
Mm.
the conversation. There were results from the conversation.
Mm.
There was follow up that when they saw each other the next week, that they could say, "How did that work out for you? How
That's so
was that
great.
party you went to?"
That's great.
How and it was it was a very special scenario that we created. And I used to always say, "Don't this might be the only time that people ask them their opinion or are kind to them or help them settle their brain."
Yes.
Help them settle their brain and say, what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling matters to somebody else.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, that
I'm
sounds
kind
like
of
a
going off
lovely
on a
environment.
tangent here.
Well, but but you're raising a really great point of environments like that without knowing the operating system behind is letting people relax their minds. It's just letting people go,
Yeah,
oh, I could take a deeper breath now,
yeah,
before I go back into my life. But in the work that I do is let me show you how that is created for you so that
oh,
after you leave the salon, you can continue that feeling,
right.
for the
Beautiful.
weeks to come.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Interesting, right? It's wow. We did when we sold that business, people were very angry at us
Oh, I'm sure.
because the person who came on could have done it just as well as far as the services delivered, but it didn't have that personal. And you know what? There was some protection in that. And then I'm going to let you go. There was an anonymity because they knew each other just in that environment, in that storefront, at that time of the day, on that day of the week, whatever. And they would leave. And what they left behind, what they imparted onto other people, what they took from other people, they left. And they could process that. And there was calm, there was no judgment. And then there could be follow up same time next week.
Yeah.
That there was an anonymity that kind of protected them.
And what I like about that, and that's where, therapy kind of misses the boat a little bit, is just you want to just have you want it to feel like a cup of coffee with a good friend.
That's what we're doing here.
Yeah. So that, yes. And so what you created in your salon, what you're creating here, what I'm creating in my work is that, I do walk and talks with my clients, as well, because sometimes you just need to get out in nature and have these
Yes,
conversations and not
yes,
face to face.
yeah,
And
right.
yeah, yeah,
I have to say to our listeners, especially to women, because I will tell you that where BEP Talks gets delivered, and we have no control over who watches it and who doesn't. It can go and live forever and ever. Um, but I know that so many are successful women who may have reached a point in life, an age, a stage where a transition is being made from she who was the professional entrepreneur, and I say the 9 to 5 thing because we know entrepreneurs, it's 24/7, we know that, but that now they're looking to transition into their next phase or stage of life,
mhm,
and they need to know how to combine, as we were saying, the spirituality and the psychology
yes,
and come to grips with who they are now and what they still have to offer. Because I believe with all my heart, every woman continues to have so much to offer. And you
Yeah.
have to take care of yourself so that you can help to take care of others.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so I'm also writing another book. It's a little smaller, but that one's done now. I just finished it this past week. And it's all about lipstick, and it's a funny story on
So
how I got started on it. But the way it's been broken down is looking at maiden, mother, and elder, and how lipstick weaves itself through our lives in these different stages of life. And because I'm in the elder stage and, being on the cusp and just figuring out, what does it mean? Do I wear a different color now? What's it representing on who I'm showing up as? And so it's really fun to kind of look at how life can be playful,
yeah,
and I think when we understand our psychology at a greater depth, where it is bridging with our spiritual experience, it's playful. I mean, if you look at children, they are perfect role models for us around that. They just
yes.
know how to tap into it.
Yes. I can't believe that you said that the book was written around the thought of lipstick, because we were just talking about that. And we've never had, please, to our viewers, Quinn and I have just met in this conversation. We have not had any rehearsals. We have not done a deep dive into each other here. But that lipstick, like I used kind of metaphorically as people were coming in, but it was never about the lipstick.
Yeah.
It was never a really cute story. My mother had lost her engagement ring, and it's a good ending, but she was upset, obviously, and my little nephew, he was probably about 4 at that point. So they were sitting in the car trying to figure out what to do, and my sister was off reporting it, and it's a long story, but the essence of it is that he said to her, "Nanny, put on lipstick." And
Oh.
he said that because obviously and previously he had said either to his mom, my sister, or maybe to my mother, his grandmother, "Why are you wearing lipstick?" And she said, "Because it makes me feel better."
Mm,
And he wanted her to feel better
mm.
in that
Oh,
moment
so
of
cute.
terrible. And he said, "Nanny, put on lipstick." Put
That's
on
so
lipstick.
great.
And it just made it wasn't that the sweetest thing.
That
And
is
he's
sweet.
he's now like 37 years old, and we remind him of that all the time. He still blushes because he's kind of a quiet guy, but worth waiting for him to say something, because it's usually a gem. So I've got to let you go, but I want to say to our listeners, our viewers, please take the opportunity of this introduction that BEP Talks has made, and has introduced you to Quinn and the work that she does and the true wisdom that she has. And I have to say, the passion that I'm feeling that you have for the work that you do, and perhaps even more particularly for the results that you've seen and that you know can happen. And it makes all the sense in the world to me that when you have a great resource like Quinn, put it to work for yourself. Take the opportunity to explore, to be willing to look at yourself in the mirror. And maybe you say, "I'm not wearing the right shade of lipstick." Maybe something has to change. It could be as simple as that. Let
Love it.
Quinn help you pick the right shade of lipstick, calm you down, and make you feel really good about all that you've already done and what still is ahead of you to
Mhm.
do for yourself, for your family, for your community, for the world, because we need people, and we sure need people like Quinn. This has been such a delight. I have learned so much, and you've made me conscious of some of my own actions and reactions. So I personally thank you for that.
Oh, it was a delight to have this conversation. Thank you so much.
My absolute pleasure. So again, take advantage. The information is below. I always say at BEP Talks, everybody has a story. Everybody has their own wisdom, as Quinn has shared hers with us today. It's worth hearing. People need to hear it. So I invite you to share your story, your beliefs, your experiences, your passions on a BEP Talks
Mm.
interview such as this. The information is below. Please be in touch. I hope that I'll get to meet you in the BEP Talk studio soon. And until that day may come, as we always say, may the best always be yet to come. And until we talk again, bye for now.